schools. Within our school's governance structure, I am responsible for this program in terms of making sure the curriculum is meeting, our objectives for the program, making sure that all the teachers are on message and coordinated, supporting the students in their efforts, helping kind of initiatives like our co-op program, our exchange programs, and anything else that comes across my desk. So I will go more into that into the presentation, but just to give you a sense of who I am within our school. Okay, so we also have people on Zoom, so hello to the Zoom people, and we'll try to remember you when the Q&A comes up. So after my introduction to myself, to formally begin, SALA holds deeply held values of community, social justice, integrity, collaboration, and ecology in the service of design for people, place, and planet. In the spirit of respect, truth, and reconciliation, we acknowledge that we gather today on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations. And we as a school commit to listening, learning, and doing the important work to decolonize our practices as architects, landscape architects, designers, and educators. And so with that, we open our open house tonight. The format for tonight is as follows. I'm going to give a program overview. This will probably be the longest segment in the evening. And then I'll pause for a very, very short Q&A. I'm thinking 3 to 5 questions. Don't worry, there'll be time later for many more questions, but just in case I miss something, in that program overview. I will continue and speak briefly about the components of the application to this program. And then I will hand over the mic and the podium to Muchi Young, who is a 4th-year student in our program and who could tell you much more from a student perspective about the program. We have some other students that will come in around that time and will introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their experience. And then they will introduce themselves and just be available. We'll do Q&A here for both Zoom and the in-person session. And then Muchi and the other students will guide this group down the hall to pizza and a tour of the design studios that are in this building and some more Q&A with the students, which is usually the most helpful I have found in my experience. So that's basically the kind of format for tonight. So to give you the overview, I would start by saying that this degree is a hands-on degree that engages design from the scale of the body to, the sidewalk, to a building, to urban systems. So we really, really think of design very broadly, and we pull heavily on our knowledge in architecture and landscape architecture and urban design. We learn about how design impacts society and the environment and how the shaping of space can affect cultural changes. So we're very much interested in how our work as designers connects to people and places. We're the only school in Canada that offers a degree like this that's interdisciplinary as a bachelor's degree that leads to the outcomes that I will speak to. And we think of it like a liberal arts degree in design that gives students an amazing foundation to, again, pursue many, many futures that are design related. So I'm referring to the slides a little bit. I mentioned that we draw on our knowledge in architectural design. And so our students learn to draw, build models, represent, present. We engage landscape architectural design, thinking about sites, systems, water. This is Terra Nova in Richmond. So we really use Vancouver and the metro region as our laboratory, and visit sites and imagine alternate futures for places like this with the cranberry bogs. And in the upper levels, the students will integrate the kind of base design knowledge in those two disciplines and integrate them into more complex projects that will involve architecture and urban design, maybe in the same space. So this is a project for the Arbutus, well, it's for the Broadway connector and the Arbutus station specifically. So if you're from Vancouver, you're probably familiar because of all the construction on Broadway, but with that new huge transit hub that's going there, and thinking about what will a transit hub be in the future, perhaps with the kind of, with automobiles kind of going away, what will that space be as a transit hub? And how could it be leisure space, could it be community space, and so on. So they were thinking about, the building, but also the kind of urban design around those concerns. And yeah, just a final project in this session. This is another studio in the 4th year that really, again, integrates across all those scales. And so the students were given a food on the first day, and they had to design a way to serve the food, like a cup or a stick or some so that we would call it industrial design. And then they had to design a food cart that was based on a bicycle and that would deliver the food, like something like a bicycle-based food truck that was held, in the thing they designed. And then that food truck would dock into a cafe that they designed in an alleyway. And then that alleyway design cafe got repeated along the alleyway systems in downtown Vancouver. So thinking about how it could also inform urban design. So really, this is the kind of the broadest scale, from a food and something that you hold on your body that that holds the food, to thinking about systems like alleyway systems and how they can become reoccupied by our interventions as designers. A little bit about the culture of our program. We consider ourselves to be a small program in that we pretty much, I pretty much know all the students within the program, which is a beautiful and amazing thing, I think, at a university of this scale. So even though we're in this, the beautiful machine of UBC on our amazing campus with all the, top class research going on, we have this space where we have so much interaction with each other, the students with each other. They're in a very tight-knit community. And so there's just really great benefit to our scale and to that kind of peer-to-peer learning that's possible. And so we accept 50 students into the first year program, and then we reserve 10 seats or 10 spots for transfer students, either coming from UBC or from other programs, to go and join those 50 students in the second year to make a 60-person cohort. So we end up with 60 people classes from the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year. The students, a large part of what we do is the design studio. I'll talk about the courses in a moment. But in the 2nd year, the students are in a space like this. This is what we call a hot desk design studio. And they can come and go, but they're kind of sharing the space. And, during class time, it gets really, really busy in there. We kind of open up another room and extend that space. And then they're able to kind of drop in and work outside of class time. And then moving into the 3rd and 4th year, when the design studio becomes a larger part of their course load, it becomes actually half of the course load every semester, 9 credits. Every student has a desk, so we call this a cold desk system. And at the end of the semester, it's quite chaotic because they've spent a lot of time in there and made a lot of things. But you could see the kind of vibrancy and the energy and the dedication the students bring to their work there. So within the culture, there's a lot of spending time in design studio, working on design projects. As I mentioned, a huge part of our curriculum. Students have one-on-one interaction with their professors, and produce, get support to produce, drawings, their physical models, things they make. They learn to present their work, and this is all, learning all the media, all the skills, learning how to make models, how to present, how to receive feedback. We have regular, what we call juries. So the teachers, other faculty members from within our school, guests. So we will invite professionals like landscape architects, professional architects. We often do projects, I mentioned, in Metro Vancouver, so we'll invite urban designers or planners that work for municipalities like the city of Vancouver will come, and the students will share their work, and they'll get feedback from this kind of jury we call of professionals. So this is a regular format. This is how we teach design in our school. And so there's that kind of interaction. And then of course, it's the interaction I mentioned that's peer-to-peer within our program. It's possible because of the kind of scale, size, and also the kind of spaces that we occupy. And so the student on, this is from a couple years ago, the student on with the yellow pants, I guess, just came back 2 weeks ago and gave a alumni event talking about what happens after undergrad. She went to grad school in the Netherlands, and then now works as a landscape architect here in our region. So just kind of coming back to the school and sharing her experience after undergrad, and making herself available as a mentor to our students. So what do students learn in our program? So this is the graphic that we actually use for planning. I realize that the words are probably a little bit blurry, doesn't really matter, but just to give you a sense, just in broader strokes, this is how we organize the curriculum for the degree. And the blue is the design stream. And so I've used the word design a lot. I've shown you what design studio looks like, the space, and some of the work looks like. And so every year for 4 years, every semester for 4 years, students are in some sort of design class. It starts as a 3-credit class in first year, then it goes to a 6-credit class in second year, and a 9-credit class in year 3 and 4. So it becomes more and more of their course load and what they do. So blue is obviously a very, very important stream and a major part of the curriculum in terms of credit load. Our students also learn about the history of design and the theory of design. So to be a designer, it's really important to know what ideas came before you, what people thought of. We don't want to repeat history, we want to learn from it and build upon it. And so students learn about, we start with Vancouver in the region and learn about the kind of history of design here, urban design, architectural design, landscape architecture design. What are some moments, what are some important pieces of policy that shape why our city looks the way it does? Yeah, and it goes through to courses that are specifically based looking at architectural history. There's a course that's specifically looking at landscape architecture history, and there's a course that's looking specifically at urban design history. So they really, yeah, just sorry, get a lot of education in that. Sorry about that. Come on. Okay. The next stream is the grassy green one, call it that, which is the technology stream. So again, to be a designer, we have the really creative side, but we also have the kind of technical side. And so students learn about sustainability, they learn about materials, they learn about the ground and the site and what makes up the ground and how to build upon it. They learn about structure, like engineering, structural systems and supports. And they also learn about, of course, the final course is environment, urban form, and infrastructure. They learn about water systems, green systems, and how they perpetuate across, you know, urban sites, rural sites, and really thinking about these larger systems. The yellow stream is we call design media, and it's basically a representation. So learning how to draw, learning how to use computers to draw two-dimensionally, three-dimensionally, computer modeling, animation, and then all the digital outputs. So laser cutting, 3D printing, CNC milling, and so on. So it's all about representing and outputting. Orange is professional development. We have a co-op program within our degree. It's optional, but every year several students take up the co-op, and they get credit, they get paid to go work in a firm for 4, 8, 12 months. And it's amazing, you know, where they end up for the co-op. We also have one required course in this stream, called Entrepreneurship and Ethics and Design. This is required for 4th year, second semester students, where they learn both about entrepreneurship, to say, if you want to start a business, what does that look like? And what would it mean to be an entrepreneur? But also, as a designer, what are kind of ethical considerations of being a designer in the world? And finally, we have our other stream, the kind of, I guess, hot pink or magenta stream at the bottom, that has courses that are optional, like some students engage in a design build course. We have studies abroad courses in the summer, and so on. So all kind of electives we may offer to students. And so those are the streams. And then if we look at across the years, so this is 1st year, this first column, and then the first 2 black lines, 2nd year, 3rd year, and 4th year. So you can see how those courses get distributed across the 4 years of the degree. The 2nd year, as you can see, is the most solid. Students are pretty much only in Bachelor of Design courses in that 2nd year. So it's really the core year. And we kind of wait till that year when we take our transfer students in, and then really work through all these design streams and really give a very, very solid foundation so they can fly in the next, you know, 3rd and then into 4th year. And so what does some of this look like? I mentioned we use the city as a laboratory. So this is my colleague, Bill Peckett. He'll be teaching the 4th year, 2nd semester studio this year. And he's giving students a tour through Vancouver's alleyways, thinking about kind of different ways that they've been intervened upon, what are the kind of politics of alleys and so on. This is a course I taught a couple years ago, and we were able to get into the Arthur Erickson Home and Garden, which is actually up in Point Grey. Arthur Erickson is one of Canada's most prominent architects, and he has a really beautiful Japanese style garden. So we went there and toured, learned about his legacy, and sketched in that space. We try to take students on site when possible. So this is a building tour of the Grandview Heights Aquatic Center in South Surrey. One is under construction and has a really innovative wood structure, if anyone's been there. Yeah, and we have lots of toys and or serious machines, we call them toys, for all the kind of development of making and outputting. So within studio or adjacent to studio, we have 3D printers that make things like this. This is from a 2nd year class. There's students right now that are involved in a course that gives them access to the Center for Advanced Wood Processing. It's a very, very high-tech facility 2 buildings away from here. And so this is the robot, and our students are working on public space interventions in partnership with the team at COP, the Center for Advanced Wood Processing. So that's a really amazing opportunity. Yeah, we have, I mentioned in the tech stream, a course that looks at building materials. So thinking about, yeah, the wide range of materials that are available to us. What are their kind of carbon footprints? How long do they last? Like, what's their how durable are they, and how can we play with them? So this is a student with playing with casting, and all that skill comes to all those courses come together to create some very sophisticated, beautiful design proposals. This is a kind of housing proposal that runs along False Creek, along that kind of like disused railway, and that kind of land between False Creek and 6th Avenue. So beyond our formal curriculum, the one that's required to graduate with the degree, I mentioned that we have other courses. So this is a photograph from a group that I actually led to Japan for studies abroad. Design build is a really big thing in our school, and we have different faculty every summer lead different kinds of design build projects. So this is one from a couple years ago with undergraduate students where they were building sheds for community gardens in Vancouver, and just learning how to use the full-scale building tools. This is a really beautiful pavilion here on our campus that was using cedar from trees that were felled in South Campus. And so they're trying to find value with this. And so the cedar was milled in a way that it could be reused afterwards. And so our students kind of conceived, designed, and built this project. And another project, this is one that actually I led for the Pell Street Festival Society. It's a Japanese-Canadian group here in Vancouver. And they run a very long-running summer festival every August. But the problem is it's really, really hot, and there's limited access to water in the neighborhood. And so with a group of students, the group conceived of these kind of misting stations where people can move through and get cool to the festival, and also these kind of drinking stations. So it's hard to see because it's under construction, but there are these kind of pedals and the water would cascade down and offer people water. Michi will speak to this more, but we have a really vibrant student body with student groups. And so each program, the Master of Architecture program, the Master of Landscape Architecture program, our undergraduate program, the BDES, and then other groups. FAFA is for Feminist Architecture, NOMAS, Michi will speak to, but it's the National Organization of Minority Architecture Students. They have their own groups with their own initiatives that we try to support in any way that we can. And then students go and do things on their own. And so, which we are delighted to celebrate and also support in any ways that we can. So this is Azure is a design magazine in Canada, and they I think they canceled it now, but they had a long-standing design competition for students to build their trade booth for the kind of design IDS West, the design fair here. And so these are undergraduate students that kind of designed this thing that could be fully recycled. And so they borrowed some furniture, but the rest of it was made with corrugated cardboard that they were able just to throw into a recycling bin afterwards, which was really a beautiful use of material and a really appropriate way to think about something that's only up for 2 days. So upon graduation, our students will go to graduate programs. And so students will choose to go the Master of Architecture path and maybe become licensed architects. Another cohort will choose to go and get a Master of Landscape Architecture and become a landscape architect. Our school, SALA, also has a program called MARCLA. It's a Master of Architecture and Landscape Architecture. And it's an amazing 4-year degree where they compress 2 completely independent professional degrees in design. And students are eligible to become licensed in both disciplines. They're separate disciplines with separate kind of boards. And so that has been, this dual degree, graduate degree has also been something that we've seen our undergraduate students pursue and really, really excel at because of their background in the Bachelor Design program. Our students pursue after graduate programs, careers, in these disciplines, some will leave design and go into planning. And I think they make excellent planners because they don't understand how designers think. So we have students that are working for District of North Vancouver, just City of Vancouver, as planners, but using their undergraduate degrees in design. And then there's often students that will also go and become entrepreneurs, run their own businesses. We have an alum that came back and runs a very successful design build construction business on Vancouver Island in Victoria, and is designing gorgeous and building gorgeous houses for very, very high-end architects. We have students that go into industrial design, ones that have worked in the film industry or do work in the industry, fashion industry, and like I mentioned, starting their own design build firm. So I would just conclude by saying, before we go to the slide, that I've taught at UBC for many years, and I've also been the chair of this program for 10, 11 years actually. And so it's just been such a privilege to witness our students developing their skills and their passions as designers and transform and find kind of unique paths out of this degree from this unique form of education that we offer. And so this school really gives students a supportive space and a community within which to explore their curiosity and engage their passion for making positive change in our built environment. So that is my brief overview of the BDes degree. And like I said, just to kind of mix it up a little bit, thought we'd just take a brief pause. If there's just 3 to 5 dying questions, there'll be more space for this afterwards. But in the room, or maybe on Zoom, if anyone has a question, I'm happy to try to field it. And then I'll talk about admissions. Yes.
Sorry, well, we came in late, so I'm not sure if you ever talked about it. How many applications do you receive for first year application?
Okay, I'm going to repeat every question just so that everyone in the room can hear, and the Zoom people especially too. So the question is, how many applications do you receive a year? I would say that we receive maybe about 1,000 applications a year. That's to both the first year entry stream and the second year transfer stream. Of that 1,000, I would guess that 800 are for the first year stream and 200 are for the second year transfer stream.
Very competitive.
It's very competitive, yes.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Question over there?
For second year students, what are the courses that you would need to have previously taken in the first year to be considered?
Okay, so the question is, for second year transfer applicants, what are the
courses you would need to take in your first year to be considered?
What are the courses you need to have taken in your first year to be considered? So are you at UBC?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you are wondering whether you're eligible to be a second year transfer student, if you go to UBC calendar or website, we list what are the prerequisites or what makes you eligible for second year entry. And so off the top of my head, you need to have, number one, completed enough credits to have second year standing in a university. So I believe that's 24. So number one, that by the end of this year, you will have completed enough credits to have completed a year of undergrad. That's number one. Make sense? The second is that you need to have completed a
Read and write. Read and write.
Right, okay. And then here at UBC, we call it reading and writing. Other schools may call it something else. And if you look at the BC transfer guide, if you're another school, you can see what counts. But basically, as a UBC student, everyone's required to take a reading and writing requirement. And it's quite broad how those can be interpreted, from my understanding. So everyone needs to have taken those, cover them in the first year, because we have a rigorous curriculum of the classes. We are also looking for one course in geography, and we're really open to what that is. If you want to take physical geography, if you want to take cultural geography, that's totally fine. You need 6 credits or 2 courses in our in a series of courses that are kind of our design, like first and second year kind of core courses. So I think it's 130, 200, 220, and 230 are the courses. And so you need to take in 2 of those or something equivalent. And finally, you need to have taken one drawing class. So if you're on campus, DES 110 or Visa 180 qualify. If you're somewhere else, a drawing class, we're very open. We really, yeah, so that answers it. Sometimes students are deficient in one of those requirements, and we will still consider you if you are missing if you're missing 6 credits, if you're missing actually 2 of those courses I just listed. Assuming they're all 3 credit courses, if you're missing 2, we'll still consider you. And then we'll just try to help you make sure that you catch up on those courses over the summer. Sarah will check in on you. I'll do Sarah in a moment, and to make sure that you can get caught up if you're becoming deficient. But we are open to that because we know that it's hard, you know, to get to university, try different things. That's a wonderful thing. We want to support that. But we also want to give people access to our second year transfer. There's a lot more information on this on the calendar and the website, so you can, they're listed very, very clearly, I think. Okay, I'm going to answer. Are there any on Zoom?
There are some on Zoom.
Okay, so can I answer this one here and one from Zoom, and then we will come back. So if you can write your question down, it'd be good.
So I understand like the multidisciplinary nature of the program. I wonder if there's any like potential to specialize in one of the 3 areas, like for example, landscape architecture in your upper years.
Okay, so the question is that that it's clear that the program has a multidisciplinary nature, but is it possible to specialize in the upper years? We're not designed to do that, but we do have some options. So we actually don't want to specialize necessarily. We're not deterring it, but it's not designed that way. We actually want you to just have this broad education, because we believe that if you become a landscape architect, knowing how to fix things will help you, you know, and you'll learn how to be a landscape architect in your master's degree specifically. However, there's a couple options. So for example, in the design stream, depending on if you qualify for honors in that, you can self-design your final project. And in that, you really have a lot of latitude to say, I'm doing landscape architecture. That's what you want to do, for example. You also have some choices in the courses, like, for example, the history sequence. You don't take all those courses, you have to take 2 or 3. And so you can really focus on landscape architecture. You can also just kind of push all your projects in that way if you know it's what you want to do. But and students just do that. Like I have a student in 3rd year right now, so she's a 3rd year, 1st semester, and it's all about trees. Not that landscape art is about trees, but like she knows she's really interested in trees and living systems, and she knows all the names, and she just finds a way to like follow the interest in her project, even though we're doing housing. But it informs her design, so it's totally possible. Okay, one Zoom question, and then we're gonna go to admissions.
It's a bit of a broad question.
Okay, do my best.
What do you think is an ideal student for the program?
Wow. Okay, so the question is, what do you think is an ideal student for the program? So first, I will say that we have quite a diverse student body, and I would say we trend, if I think about just the kind of demographics of our student body, we trend a little more female than male in the undergrad. We have students from last year we counted 16 countries. Could be more this year, but like, you know, we're people from different backgrounds, coming from different educational systems. In the second year cohort, some students come in from engineering. We had one from science that just graduated. She did her 1st year in science. People coming from visual arts and have amazing portfolios and, you know, just beautiful drawing skills. And so all of those backgrounds will make can make beautiful designers. And so we're not looking for someone that only did visual arts. Like we don't have any idea like that. In fact, we know that our science student, our engineering background student, our visual arts students, they all thrive and they all take on design in their own way. develop new skills within the program. And so, and in a way, design is such a broad thing. There's so many kind of wicked problems in the world that like it takes all different kinds of thinkers with different kinds of specialties to work on them. So we're definitely not looking for like one mold of a student. That's really, really important. And so if you're saying like, oh, I don't have the visual arts background, that's okay. You know, we'll find something else in your application that you're strong and you're passionate about. That said, I would say that the students that thrive in this program are curious, caring, community oriented, like not all the time, but kind of like socially oriented in a way that we think about design for people, for places, and so it's like what drives that is some level of caring about people or about the environment. So I would say that that's kind of a quality that's shared across our students. It's not really ideal, but these are things that's shared within the DNA of our student body. Okay, we will have time for more questions, and it'll be better because students will be here to help me answer them, and they'll probably give better answers than I do. So,
and maybe I'll just give the folks a chance that are over here. We have lots of seats on this side of the room, so maybe we'll take them more.
Yeah, please come on over. So I imagine that if you are here, you maybe read about our program a little bit on the website and have maybe breezed through this, but I'll just go through it so it's really, really clear. And I'm also going to introduce at this moment Sarah Bromwich Price, who's right here in front of me. And here's Sarah. Sarah is a student services person for our program, and is really the point person for admissions, and then also for all the students in the program. So she answers a lot of emails and is a really important resource for all of you who are applying, and definitely for the students in our program. So I'll present this, but Sarah, feel free to jump in and feel free to answer questions at some point. But basically, if you go, this is from the SALA website. It looks a little bit different if you're looking at UBC calendar, but the information is exactly the same. Basically, the components to apply to our program is that you do your kind of preliminary online application, and a couple days after we received that and processed it, we send to you the second part. So there's a part A and a part B. So the part A is pretty generic. It's the application. And then part B is the more specialized components for our degree. But you won't really see these until you apply to our program, because we don't like to advertise them, because they're there's a time-based element to them. And so, like in terms of your process, step one is like just seeing which category do you fit into. So we have students in secondary school. We assume we're all applying to the first year entry. So if you are that, you would open up that menu. If you are a current UBC student and you have enough credits to apply to second year, then you're one category. If you're current UBC students that do not have the requirements, not even 6 credits deficient, then you will be applying into the first year. But you have a different kind of portal to enter. We have students that are not UBC students. So we accept students that are from OCAD, like Langara, U of T, Waterloo, all over Canada. Students will come to our Manitoba will come to our program as secondary transfer students. So there's a kind of pathway for that type. And then I guess people that are second year higher who've been considered for BDES. So the first thing I mentioned is a generic application. If you're not a UBC student, you're gonna have to register with Education Planner BC and get an account. This account will allow you to log into admissions. If you are a UBC student, then you have a different process. It's much simpler. So the first step, like I said, is to submit your online application, fairly generic. It's due the 15th, but you're gonna hear this over and over again. Do it much earlier. Do it much earlier. Do it a month earlier. Do it tomorrow if you want to apply to this program, because once you apply, we send you, like I said, the prompts, the questions for the second part. And the longer you have to work on them, the more time and attention you can put into it. Because those remaining parts are all due the 31st. So only 2 weeks after that the first date. Okay. And I don't think that, yeah, it's optimal to only give yourself 2 weeks to do all that. So these are the correct deadlines, but I would just say give yourself an extra month or more if you can. So the supplemental is a video interview, a creative test, a resume, an application fee. The video interview, we actually give you your the prompt. So it's on the website, and we ask you to talk about one building landscape or design that is of compelling interest to you, and why. We want to know why you want to be a designer in these disciplines, and we wanted to hear you talk a little bit about it. And so what are we looking for in the video interview? First of all, it's through a system called VidCruiter. So you're going to be recorded. And VidCruiter is a little bit nasty because it shuts off after 90 seconds. So please watch your time. In fact, practice. Think about what you want to say. Practice a couple times with an audience. Record yourself so you see what you look like if you want. And then just make sure that you have a succinct enough response that you finish within the time. Because it's so brutal. I look at kinds of applications every year, and I don't know what the end is if you didn't finish in time. So don't leave me hanging here wondering. So please be succinct. The other thing is a personal response. I think, not to harp on negatives, but I think that the worst version is if you read me the Wikipedia page on the Eiffel Tower. That's not what we're looking for. Does that make sense? We want to know why you chose this, again, building, landscape, urban design, why you chose it, and why it's a compelling interest to you. I don't need the history of it. I don't know. I would love to hear you talk about it, but don't give me the Wikipedia page on it. So make it personal and connect to it. And through that, we would expect to learn about the things you care about. What are your values, or what excites you? What are your passions? Okay, the second component of the supplemental is the creative test. This is going to be the most time consuming, and this is why you don't want to submit your first online application in January 15th. Do it before, because you want to give yourself some time to think about this. So for this, you're given 3 short design projects. Other schools ask for a portfolio, and we have done that in the past, but we find that the portfolio, it's difficult to compare students that come from different backgrounds. Maybe some students, went to, wonderful art schools and had people supporting them, other students didn't. So we want to really see the student in that moment responding to the same prompt. And so we have 3 short design projects, and and you're asked to do the project, explain how you went about it, and document the final thing. So we're looking for creative thinking, looking for spatial thinking. We're looking for, one of them we ask you to make something. Looking for are you good at making things? Do you love, craft? Thinking about the edges lining up well, cutting straight. We're looking for, when you photograph the thing you made, does it have a good composition? Do you have a good eye, intuitively or naturally? How you present it, how you talk about it. These are all things that we're looking for. And finally, we ask for a 1 to 2 page resume. And for this one, we just want to learn more about you. We don't actually rank your resume. We rank every other element in our process.
but we're not judging you for your resume. However, it's really just out of curiosity, we want to know more about if you have work experience, if you volunteered, if you were in clubs in high school, if you started the club, any accolades, you know, we have students that are like piano teachers, certified, like it's so interesting. So we love learning about that.
And it really rounds out our understanding of our applicants. So that is that. This is the email address. It's on the website. If you have any questions, and you're welcome to email it if you have questions along the way. Yeah, to keep in contact. So Sarah Bromwich Price will be the person on the other side of that email address for your process. Okay, we're not going to pause now for questions. We're going to go straight to Muchi, and then we will have time at the end. So thank you all for listening, and let's switch our slideshow.
Everyone, my name is Muchi.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's actually. I just put that.
Hi everyone, my name is Muchi Young. I'm a 4th year in the Bachelor of Design program. I'll be speaking on behalf of DESIS, which is the Design Undergraduate Society. We are a student organization that strives to help students quickly orient themselves within the program, also helping to optimize their level of education, achievement, and expand these resources and opportunities available to both current and future students. So some of our key goals, we hope to bring together students within the undergraduate program, improve the educational quality of students within BDES, foster professional, personal, and social development among our students, as well as encourage leadership, fellowship, and community service, and of course, promote the discipline of design in architecture. Yeah, our team's not here, but this is pretty much what our team's comprised of. We have different areas for you to get involved in, for example, marketing and outreach, health and wellness, as well as student life. Just ultimately, we really just hope to make students feel welcomed and prepared, especially for incoming students entering their 1st year, helping them to build a very strong relationship with other students as well as faculty, and helping them to engage with everyone and building on their strengths. We also hope to continue to create a very collaborative space between every SALA student organization through mentorship opportunities, events, lecture series, and also having these conversations in all these other events as well. And also, we also hope to act as a liaison between students, faculty, and administration of SALA to ensure that your voice is heard. Just some of the events that we do just to promote student life. We have kind of a thing called Fresh Fridays that are held every month. That's organized by our events team. It's just a casual event for students to come together. So our last theme was, I believe, pumpkin carving. And as well, we had a 1st year scavenger hunt in previous years. Looking forward, we have things such as skating, paint nights, movie nights, and Minecraft build competitions. Looking forward into the 2nd semester, there's things such as the welcome back breakfast, night, the BDES ball that could be coming up, model making workshops, etc. You kind of get the vibe. And later on in April, what we do for our our graduating students is a grad event / gallery exhibition, where students will have a chance to showcase their own work in the gallery. And in previous years, there have also been student yearbooks or publications where we compile the work of the graduating cohort and compile them into a book that people can take home. So just walking through some of the events that have happened this year. This is photos from this year's BDES Intro Week for new students as a way to quickly orient themselves into the program. We do this thing called Waffle Wednesdays, held bi-weekly. We have our wonderful health and wellness team cooking up waffles in the Macmillan building. So even if you're swamped with deadlines, you could hop by into our studios and get free waffles. These are some photos from our winter formal last year. Yeah, so it's not all just working on projects all day. We do know how to have fun as well. So here's some photos. We do gingerbread house building. We also have merch that we organize every year. These are designed by students and are part of a kind of design competition for students to design, obviously. So we do a mixture of, like, for example, sweatshirts, tote bags, and of course, yeah. We have actually 2 Instagram pages. So this one, sala.bdes, is highlighting all of our student works that comes in. This gets updated quite frequently as more projects get finished. And we recently started another account, deses.bdes. This is focusing more on student life as a way to connect with everyone in more detail, and also outline all of our events that we hold throughout the year. Other student organizations that Madi mentioned earlier include NOMAS, which stands for the National Organization of Minority Architecture Students. There's FAFA for Feminist Architecture, and ILANS, which is the Indigenous Landscape and Architecture Network of Design Students. Some of the events include design competitions. This one was held in conjunction with the UBC Design League. This one is held by NOMAS. It is part of kind of this annual design competition that we held every year. And this one, our team actually went to not Portland. This was from Nashville, so last year, where we got to spend a whole summer designing and working together as a team. This was from a lunchtime lecture held in collaboration between UBC NOMAS and Islands that happened last year. And there are also firm crawls that are held where students get a chance to kind of tour different firms around Vancouver. This one specifically was organized by UBC NOMAS, and they toured firms such as From Left to Right Human Studios, Hapo Collaborative, as well as DA Architects. Yeah, and feel free to contact us anytime if you have student questions regarding student life. We have a Facebook account, our 2 Instagram pages, as well as our DES's email. Thank you.
So just introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Nishi. I'm also a fourth year and I'm also part of Texas. Hi, I'm Renee. I am also a fourth year. Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm a third year.
Sam, I'm also a third year.
Oh, I think Cheyenne. Yeah.
So yeah, so we're gonna open up to Q&A for a moment, but I'd like to kick it off. I asked the students if they could give advice to them, their younger selves, to you, sitting where you are, thinking about applying to the program. What advice, what their wisdom they've gained, would they give to you thinking about admissions? So we can start with that, and then we'll open up to Q&A.
I think one advice is don't be afraid to be messy in your design process, and also show that in your creative test when you're submitting your drawings. Like, it's nice to show the final work, but also show how you got to where you got. So don't be afraid to kind of show the messiness, all the models that you've made, the thinking that went into coming up with the final concept. Yeah. I would say when I applied, I implemented a creative test in my resume. Everything's a very simple Word document, and I'm sure it was a little messy. That wasn't great. That's it. Once you put in all the progress work and you hope it's done, make sure you sit down for a minute, look at the graphic design element, and format this stuff. For my piece of advice, I think one of the components of the application is the interview. And when I was in high school, I was super shy. There's no way I could have done an interview.
But, I believe you only get one chance to record, so I would say to like really practice your interview and maybe even have a script and to the point where you can recite it and make it seem very casual. I would say that's my best piece of advice.
I would say, be really intentional in your application, and also, don't be restrained to maybe what you normally see. You search up lampshade on Google. Yeah, go beyond that because chances are 1,000 other students are also searching lampshade on Google, right? And I think when Nishi said about process is also really good because usually the interviewers or the people checking it, they're not gonna be understanding what's going on in your head when you're making these projects. So making a process of it and describing it with words about what you're thinking, I think is also really important.
I think another really important thing is just making sure that all three of your responses are very cohesive and really speak towards who you are as a person. I know there is a resume for that, and you're writing down your list of all your extracurriculars, but I think this is a really enriching opportunity for you to show how you think and the ways that you kind of link all these ideas together. And it's just a chance for you to show how you can stand out. And I think one really important way to do that is by linking all three of those prompts actually, and just the way that you respond to them is really crucial. So I think thinking about the three of them as even like one kind of piece would be one piece of advice.
Thank you. You can hold that. Actually. Okay, I'm just gonna turn this off and maybe turn some lights on. So we can all on. Let's unplug. Let's unplug. Let's turn these guys off. So let's open it up to let's say 10 minutes of questions. And maybe we'll go back and forth between the room and Zoom. And then you'll have time. Sorry, let's wait for this to. Sorry about that. It's a very responsive system. So we'll go back and forth between the room and Zoom for questions and see who wants to answer them. And then you will have more opportunity to ask questions when we go into the pizza room and toward the studios. Okay, so there's one in the back. I promise I'd come back to you. Do you still have your question? Is the back row?
This is regarding the co-op program.
Okay.
Can you explain a bit more the exposure to different groups? Is it mainly in Vancouver or Denmark, Canada?
Okay, so the co-op program is it's actually run by the Applied Science co-op office. So Applied Science is a very amazing machine that we're part of, and with many engineering students. They have a very successful co-op program, and so they in third year students apply to be a co-op student, and they're given a couple workshops in getting their CV, portfolio, and interview style together. So kind of coach a little bit professional development. And then we have firms that we've reached out to that have postings within the co-op office. Although I would say that there's not that many there right now, but students also find their own co-op placements. And so we have firms that are mostly in Vancouver, but we also have some across Canada and the United States. And there's, I'm thinking Edmonton, Toronto, like there's a couple firms. And then students are also welcome to find their own co-op placement. They don't need to pick from the ones that we have advertised, and then get the credit and everything through that. Okay, online question?
Yeah, so we have a lot of questions about the creative test.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to kind of try and consolidate them into one question. Mostly, can you give some examples of what a creative test would be? I don't think we can say what the creative test will be this year, but what's it been like in the past and kind of what the experience of that is.
Do you wanna go? Yeah?
Yeah, in our year, or financial year, we were tasked with designing a landscape. That was supposedly for our mobile phones, and it was just an interesting scale to work with. As I think typically, when we think about landscapes, we think about the one that's just sitting on our table. So it really challenges us to work with different scales and thinking about what kind of projections, for example, this landscape can make. Yeah, I don't know any other examples.
Yeah, so actually, I think the other prompt that we got was a prosthetic that we had to do for our creative test. And that was a really good question because it made you think about your personal experience and how you can share that through the drawing. Yeah.
I'll also say the prompts you get, they might seem vague or they're kind of like, they're hard to understand. And I remember I actually called in to the office and I was like, help me, I don't know, I don't understand this. And that's what they'll tell you that they're vague because you're really up to how you interpret it. And it's not like there is some kind of perfect right answer. I know, like, looked at my creative test versus one of my peers and they're wildly different, like what everyone did. So if you don't feel confident that you fully understand it, keep rereading it, do your research, do whatever that feels right to you. It will be a little confusing, but it's all about how the process is pretty good. For our year, one of our prompts was to design a pet house. And so we had to take a building that inspired us and put that into our creative test as well. One thing I would say for creative tests is if you have a connection, or you can reach out to the Justice Instagram that Miuchi put on the screen. In my 12th grade year, I got in contact with a career student and also asked, they didn't do it for me, but I asked for some feedback on my creative test, which I think was really helpful for that.
Yeah, I think my advice would be to really question the, like, if the prompt was to make a phone lampshade, like question what a lampshade is. I think that's how you stand out instead of just making, you know, that triangular shape thing. Go beyond that. Ask yourself what does a pet need? What is a home for a small pet? Ask those questions, and I think that will help further your budget.
Okay, question from the room?
So each year, I guess, gets a different type. First, like three different questions. Will the questions that, for example, I received be the same question that they received?
Yes, okay, so the question is, understanding that we change the questions every year, does everyone get the same questions? And the answer is yes. So once you do your online application, before January 15th, give a couple days and then we'll send you an email acknowledging your application, the first step, and then we'll send you the prompts. And then you have until the end of January to upload your projects, document them, explain them through your layout, and then upload them. Yeah, and so it's for us, it's really wonderful because we really can see, you know, all these applications kind of responding to the same question. And yeah, and all the varied responses. Online question?
Yeah, do the students that enter the program generally have previous formal design education or taken courses in design?
Sure.
Okay.
And for myself, no, I did try to take like art classes, stuff that could, you know, like influence my design in the future. I took a drafting course in high school, but it was fairly minimal. Like I didn't do any extensive work. I would say more of like it's a CV, so you kind of get to put things that you wouldn't put on into a CV, right?
Your resume?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to put things that aren't like you would put on a typical resume. You can put more of like stuff you do in your personal time. So I know that I do a lot of like interior design modeling in my time. So while through like school and high school, I didn't do a lot. Only kind of did that. I think the design discovery program, which is a summer program that is offered by UBC for high school students.
I think there's a in my experience, there's a really broad range of students that took digital discovery like Lizzie, and which is a great program, 2 weeks doing little design projects. People that have done programs like an arts umbrella, intro to architecture, but you don't need that. You know, there's students that come to UBC again in science thinking they're going to do one thing, get a sniff of our program, take a course, fall in love with it, discover this is what they, you know, what fulfills them, and take what they have, but we find, you know, and apply with it. And we just look for that kind of raw talent.
I just want to add on
Yeah,
to that.
yeah.
The program is really well structured, so even if you feel like you're not confident with your drawing skills, like don't worry about it, because in your first year you'll meet really good instructors, TAs, and they'll be there to support you throughout your journey and help you improve. And your peers are also your greatest supporters, so they'll also be there to help you out in every step.
Was that okay? That was the person. I think that was it. Oh no, that was on that one. Right, okay, right. Sorry about that. There's a question this way. Yes.
Yeah, so when it comes to like submitting applications, what would you guys say like evaluating this? Like, is it like academic performance or like extracurriculars or, you know, like related work or whatnot?
So the question, I'll just repeat several from here, is when you submit, what do we value the most? Is the question. So we have first of all, we have several people reviewing each file, and so it's just a way to kind of not put bias into our process. And yeah, people with, well, admitting that we all have biases, that we mix people that have different biases so that it gets balanced out. And so people are looking for maybe value different things within the team. However, we definitely look at the creative test. Sorry, everyone, because this is the thing that does the most question, but that is something that we weigh. It has a heavy weight in thinking about your overall score when we rank the applicants. We take your video interview seriously as a way to learn about you. I mentioned that we do not rank your CV because it just seems like, I don't know how you rank someone's CV. It doesn't seem like to give someone a grade. That doesn't, we don't do that, but it's a mechanism to learn about you, as I mentioned. We definitely rank your grades. And so that is something that we look at too. And we convert, if you have a, you know, if you come from a different system, we convert them and we rank those. So I would say in order: creative test, video interview, and grades.
We have a question about the video interview, and I might just change the question a little bit.
Okay.
This person is asking, would you like us to talk about a very specific building, landscape, or design, or would you prefer that we spoke about a more broad design idea, and maybe you guys could talk about what you talked about in your video interviews a little bit?
Okay, I'll just answer the first. So the question, sorry, just everyone here, is for the video interview, do you need to talk about one specific building, landscape, or urban design, or can the response be something broad, like your broad interest, like, I don't know, sustainability or something, if my interpretation. And then the question is, can they talk about what they tell you what they talked about, if you remember back in the day when you're still young. So in response to the first question, I would stick to answering the question. The question asks you to speak about to select one building, landscape, or urban design. There are people, we're an educational institution, we ask you a question, we would like you to answer the question. And there are people definitely on our faculty that are reviewing these that would not feel, they would not give them warm fuzzy feelings if you evaded the question. So please just focus on one. That's my direct response to that. Do you guys want to talk about what do you remember?
The building that I talked about, or one of them, was actually the shed. I don't know if any of you know that building. But I think back in high school, I didn't have a lot of exposure to architecture, so obviously I wasn't able to connected to any broader frameworks, but I think just being genuine in how you perceive the building, and I think for me, I was most drawn to the fact that it could move. I think it was absolutely crazy that the building could move for some reason. But just describing it in a way that makes sense. So just like I talked about the fact that it moves, it also creates additional spaces and how that kind of adds additional use to the building. Something like that really sparked my attention as when learning about the project at first. But I think as you explore around our daily and sort of look for some buildings to be looking for something to spark their inspiration. I talked about, so we were asked for 3, but again, we were only 1. I picked a building that was actually downtown, and my hometown doesn't have a lot of good architectural inspiration, which is what I thought before I started my schooling here. But I found it rather like the actual architectural qualities and thought about how it made me feel. I picked my cultural center in my hometown, and it was obviously it's a beautiful building and it's newer. But just like the feeling that you belong when you walk in there is something so special. So I rather talked about like that connection and how it made me feel every time I go in there. And obviously some of the elements like materiality a bit tied into that feeling, but it was overall I picked it just because of the way it made me feel.
I'll just list the 3 that I put in my I talked about my bedroom, IKEA, and an art museum in Japan.
Very good.
I can hear this one. I think I did the Vancouver house. It's in Vancouver. I think I picked it just because it looked really cool, and I've never seen something like that before. But I think they usually expect you to kind of elaborate a little bit more. And so, yeah, please don't just say it looks cool. I think, yeah, but I basically said, yeah, the house and it looked cool, but I thought it was interesting how it created extra space underneath. And I thought that could have some significant implementations in the future as well.
We're just getting a couple messages, guys, that it's kind of hard to hear you, and I think it's the microphone. So if you're speaking, maybe we're talking into that thing.
Oh,
Thing there, so just maybe get a little bit closer to that. Hopefully that will help it a little bit.
okay. Your answer.
I don't remember the 3 buildings that I spoke about, but I do know that I looked at my personal experience, and I know I picked a building in Singapore, India, and the States, because I recently traveled to Singapore and the States, and then India's my hometown. So I kind of looked at how architecture in all of these 3 countries kind of varied, and looked at density and green space and what the building meant to the local people in those countries.
Great. So we're kind of at time, I would say, for questions. And so let's move the questions to pizza, and you can talk to us directly and get maybe like more candid responses in a more informal setting. So everyone, thank you so much for coming and giving us your time and your interest in our program, and we're looking forward to seeing your application. Good luck, everyone.